Tribe, these are special times. We are sharing as we normally do, and we are spreading this love throughout the entire world. We have about 9 minutes until we get this thing started tonight. It is a special evening as always. one day off for the full moon. I think they got a little Sabbath or Shabbat or something, Passover going on. It's always something happening, but most importantly, it's what's going on within. So I'm going to go ahead and start this timer, and then we're going to go ahead and get ready to go live on YouTube. But in the meantime, it will be a great opportunity to send this wholeness and balance vibration through the world and let them know how you feel. Let them know where you're from. Also, if you're out there tonight, you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram or you're on YouTube, you can sound off in the chat, wholeness, where you're from. And lines are capable of being unmuted at this point. Thank you so much.
Wholeness family, this is Sean. Super excited about this evening. Wholeness.
Wholeness family, Sequinda in Oklahoma this week still.
Wholeness family is Kawanda in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wholeness family, this is Haru in Washington State.
Wholeness family, this is Veronica, Renee, and Callie, all the way from Savannah. Yay!
Wholeness family, this is Carol in Detroit, Michigan.
Sam Heights from Miami.
Jonathan from
Costa Rica. Hi, Drake. Go ahead.
Wholeness family, Drake from New York.
Wholeness fam, this is Nidhi from Toronto.
Wholeness family, this is Fifi from Farmersville, Texas, and I'm going to YouTube on my social media to let everybody know that we're going.
Yeah.
Wholeness family, this is William from Durham, North Carolina. We send out peace, love, and universal consciousness.
Wholeness family, this is Glorine from Delaware.
Wholeness family, it's Michael from Florida.
Wholeness fam, it's David from Vermont.
Wholeness family, this is Melvin from Denver.
Wholeness tribe, this is Shucks out in Tokyo, originally from Southern Cali.
Wholeness tribe, this is Tanya from the UK, but originally from South Africa.
Wholeness tribe, this is Jonathan from Greenville, North Carolina.
Wholeness, everyone. This is Ivan Berumen from Dallas, Texas.
Wholeness tribe, this is Molite from South Carolina.
Wholeness family, Lolita from Denver, Colorado.
Wholeness tribe, this is Eddie from San Diego, California. Much love.
Wholeness tribe, Nathaniel Maru, also known as Daniel Ramon, coming in live from Costa Rica. Much love.
Wholeness tribe, this is Roman from New Jersey. Many thanks.
Jersey.
Wholeness tribe, it's Chris from Atlanta.
Wholeness Tribe is Sarang. I'm in South Carolina, originally from Pune, India.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to it then. Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations Tribe.
Even in your lies, some truth slips. That mythical community.
We have here nitric acid, glycerine, and a special mixture of iron. We have here nitric acid, glycerine, and a special mixture of iron. Together it's horrible, dangerous stuff. And the mix together in the right way, if only I know how. What do you think it makes? I don't know, sir. You don't know because only I.
All right. Let's get ready to get it started tonight. You know, it's always a good time to do something new, to be such an amazing being. And I just love this opportunity that I always have to connect here with Tribe. This has been a brilliant life, and it continues as we keep going through this experience together, as we challenge ourselves to be who we are. And it's very interesting, this entire process, but we give thanks because it's such an intricate experience. It really lets us know just how special we are to have this life and to have this time where, wow, in this case, we can't even say we know where nothing comes from. And that gives us hope. So I wanted to take one moment to get this Palo Santo and this sage going this much for you. It's just taking the opportunity to clear the space is always key. And it's because, as you know, we come out of different aspects of life. We may be sliding in under the door. You may have just got the live signal. Understanding has gone live. And so you got to take a moment and got to take time to dial in, because this is all about you. It's always been about you. It's always been that understanding. And today we thought that it would be great to bring the entire tribe together. This is the Sovereignty Mentorship Tribe. We are here representing, it's about 100 of us in here right now. Let's see where it goes tonight. And then also, we began something that was so powerful about 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3-4 weeks ago. It seems like 1,000 lifetimes. And I've been dripping a bit of that into YouTube under the Ascent, the introduction. It's actually done pretty well, so it seems like most of the audience has heard it already. If you have not heard it, for sure it's a prelude to what I'm going to be presenting tonight here with Tribe, which is just a reprise of what the Ascent series has been about, and also just a really, really deep introspection to self right now, 2021, in the language that we speak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment to let it breathe. I'm actually going to go and take a couple breaths, and I advise that you do the same. Just take a moment for yourself, breathe in, breathe out, and get prepared for your gift. So let's do that. Just take a moment to take a breath. Just center yourself. Turn off your mind, turn on your heart. Those tones and vibrations are a complete harmony. Higher octaves, middle octaves, and lower octaves, all working in unison. And it just sounds like something that you could just keep going. You feel like it's getting to something. These are the same octaves. It's kind of introduction to our perpetual energy and our perpetual force. I wanted to take the moment that we always do here and touch and agree and just acknowledge at this moment in this space in this time that the hands that you see here raised is the universal symbol for infinity. Since we're infinite, we always reserve the right to take a moment in a full spectrum as you're witnessing here on this screen. Beings from all walks of life, all parts of the cosmos, in unison, in the agreement that we are here to expand ourselves, and thus we are here to expand each other in the vein that all is self, and that anything that you prefer, something that no one has to ask you about, if they say it one time, you want it, what you already have dialed in into your own projection, anytime you need that you can get it from this space. It is inexhaustible. And we were able to accomplish that because everyone is here. I give thanks to this tribe. I give thanks to all of the other spaces that we've opened and continuously fuel in order to grow closer towards our greatness. Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations Tribe. So tonight we going in. We have literally a reprise to cover. I also said that there was a build that I had done inside of Clubhouse in relation to the template. And I really wanted to make sure that that build was here for the tribe, because I know it was not that many of us in Clubhouse. Some don't have that iPhone. You know, they're producing all sorts of obstacles these days. But I said I was going to bring it back around because it was one of the perfect deliveries. And also, as you know, we have been going through some very vast knowledge. So it's always good to take a moment to digest and to really, really say, okay, well, let me see where I'm going with this. Let me see what's going to happen with me if I begin to apply these things. I also wanted to let everybody know out there that may be having issues with your connection as far as your internet, that this is being recorded. In fact, it's much more clearer on this side than it looks like on Zoom. So know that you will get this archive and it will be available for you. So if at some point during this broadcast, even if this doesn't, you know, if it starts blinking out or whatever, and I'm going, whatever, don't trip. It's not the universe stacked against you. It's probably a bandwidth issue, and we'll get it to you. So without further ado, it's first of all great to be simulcasting in this moment, because obviously the tribe is meeting every Friday and we're going in. And then also we have the YouTube crowd here tonight, which I haven't seen in a while directly and live, but I give thanks for being here to be able to have the time and also the energy and the inspiration to come into this space and to keep projecting. As you know, when I do it for everything. Like, it's got to all come out tonight. If you never see me again, you'll have what you need to continuously expand. And we've been doing that for 10 years, consistently refining this great level of knowledge and wisdom from our ancestors. Now, I want to jump right into this and just let you know that you can be renewed and you can be restored anytime you wish. Anytime you decide to make a request from yourself, an earnest request that some magic be performed or something happen, some intercession, something for you on your behalf. If you truly put yourself into it, it will happen for you. And so for us, we're seeing also that it's a good time for us in this point to keep regenerating and restoring ourselves. And this has really been the bulk of what we've been discussing over the last, I would say, week. We got a chance to really look through a template that showed us that we're a temple, in fact. And what was immediately put to question was, what was the condition of that temple? To look at the base of that temple, to look at your feet, your knees, to look at, where these deposits inside of your consciousness that are no longer serving you and are not allowing you to jettison off to where you need to go. Where are they located? Let's isolate them and let's dissolve them. And when we started this Ascent series, it was interesting because we literally went what I would say is 3 floors up before we got to the surface. And how that played out is that I decided after a situation that I experienced that I was pretty much tired of serving just the lower level of consciousness with higher levels of wisdom. And what I mean by that is that I had already set an objective once I reach a certain state of consciousness to dive back into the experience and to go as low as possible and then come all the way up and bring everything that is down there up. And that means visiting the people who don't want to be visited, talking to the people who nobody wants to talk to, seeing how knowledge can be given or wisdom can be given and resources can be given even to people who don't have it. Just really challenging the consciousness, the spirit, and the soul to do something through a vessel. If we, I say in life, man, if we could even just get people like 5 or 10 people say, look, we'll take care of you, your housing, whatever you want. You just go and practice the aesthetic. You just go and refine yourself and learn this knowledge and learn this wisdom and then come back and tell us what you learned. That in itself would be valuable if in life we actually enlisted these beautiful beings here, at least some of them, to go on that adventure and get out all of the knowledge, if you may, or at least the template, all of the knowledge. That's a whole nother thing, but just the template to knowledge so that we all may have something. So when we're ready to go on this expansive journey through ourselves, then we can have that instruction. So that's what this platform has always been here for. We always say, if you don't see the portal, be the portal. And what this means is that when I came into awakening, I didn't really find too many people around me that were awake. This is a phenomenon that seems to be happening. I found religions, I found dogmas, I found even some cults, I found all sorts of different things, some ancient knowledge and wisdom. I found some relics, some talismans. I found all sorts of stuff, but it was all like just there, like something that had been discarded, something that wasn't put in the high institution of learning that I knew of. And so as we went through the process, which again has been 11 years for us now, we were able to refine this knowledge and awareness in this blueprint. And it did something amazing, not only in my life, but it also has done many amazing things in the lives of those who have taken this time to understand themselves. So this is yet but another leg of the journey in infinity as we keep refining the master knowledge. And we did that in the Ascent because I realized that as I was diving deeper and deeper and deeper and looking to uplift as many beings as possible on the levels that I was getting on, I started to wonder, when would I know when I've actually hit rock bottom, if you may, the lowest I could go? And I kept hearing my higher self say, oh, you'll know. And in one stage, I actually found myself being humiliated. And it was interesting because it didn't come across like my feelings were hurt, like somebody was humiliating me. It came across as humility. That the whole reason why if you go up, you come back down, is to remain in that compassion and that humility for life and the experience. Even the shit here is what fertilizes everything that grows. So you can imagine the ramifications of what can go on in the space. Proper training is for us to be strong, but not only strong, but flexible. And that's what that up and down process on the ladder is about, is remaining flexible. So that way, if your number gets called and you end up needing to go into the hood to save 5,000 or 6,000 of your soul force compadres by bringing them into another level of awareness by their diet, then you're not hesitating on going. So this whole experience was grand. But once that happened, I realized that, okay, I think I've gone as low as I could go. And then that's when the ascent began. We literally started jettisoning all of our knowledge, all of our awareness, all of our experiencing, all of our experiences into a higher state of our consciousness. It's possible. We did that together. And we've already put 6 very beautiful presentations together that are long format. Today, again, I could only give a reprise because I also have a 30-minute audio that I feel is very powerful for everyone to listen to that has the opportunity just to understand this template. And it's also because there is nothing here that we're keeping from anyone. The biggest secret is you. This is about total activation. It's that station to where when you're ready for that, this is what you should be able to turn on, and then you'll be able to get it. So it's very interesting now in life that we're learning to preserve life force by making sure that we're not jumping into anxiety, making sure that we're not jumping into anger, confusion. And we've been going through this process of training our being of how to do that, but we've been doing that in a very methodical way. It's not just, hey, be calm, or, you shouldn't be angry. We give it all of our sight to seeing what is going on down deep, so that we can convince the being that still wants to do that not to do it anymore, that we can override that being or win that battle. And in fact, this segment of the ascent began with the Bhagavad Gita dropping into my lap again. As I mentioned, the first time it dropped into my lap, it came in a certain translation that was very poetic. And it put me to sleep pretty much. I read a couple of stanzas and I was done. Just recently, another one dropped into my lap, thanks to our brother Andrew. And he was reading it right before a meditation. And the metaphysical breakdown was so deep, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Who's writing this? What's written like that in these times? And that kind of, in that vernacular, because that vernacular we're yet to really inherit. The total, you're walking around in a portable universe. Terminology like this, you don't really hear. So I started going through it, and I found, wow, it's incredible that the wisdom, again, has already really come to this planet. And it's just all about when we're ready to apply it. Other than that, it's just knowledge. So I trust that tonight that this knowledge that we bring forth becomes wisdom for you because you apply it. Because there is a phenomenon that is happening here that I've personally noticed, and it's that anything that generally is beautiful, they try to put it in a cage. They try to make it a pet. They try to own it. So it's almost as to say that you almost have to hide your beauty in order to stay safe. It reminds me back at, these times where they used to talk about beautiful men and beautiful women. If you were beautiful, then the king would come and snatch you up and, you'd be off. And people were hiding if they had a beautiful child. And I see us today in this reality, and it's like we have so much to share, but there's so many critics. There's so many different imbalances and things to deal with. If we're going to share it with somebody, it's almost like if we're going to get some real satisfaction, we must share it with ourselves. So that means you have to learn to appreciate yourself, and you have to learn to actually feel that the energy from yourself is greater than the energy that you feel coming from others. Because it's vice versa now. It's like if somebody says to us that they love us, that they care about us, maybe they click on us, they give us a couple likes, they pat us on the back, they tell us that we're great. It seems to do a lot for us in that moment. And I really wanted us to always experience this perpetual love. And the only way to do that is to turn oneself on to themselves. And if you can imagine then, as I mentioned earlier, if there is this phenomenon of beautiful things get put in the cage, we have to make sure that we also remain strong enough. And as I mentioned, flexible enough to not be put into that cage, to not be snuffed out, to not be silenced, to not be quiet, to not conform, to not do any of the things that would violate how we want our projection. It is the tools that you're learning here, as I'm going to prove so profusely. It is the tools that you're learning, the things that you're seeing, the shapes, the designs, the geometries, that you're given also as potential things that you want to use in your next existence. How you build your next projection and what you have in your projection is based on what you experienced here and what you prefer. But it's very interesting that people could do things continuously that even kill them. If we think even of bad diets and certain foods that actually do damage to the body, you can find a person wanting to eat that more than they can actually resist eating it. So this means that even in the reality, you may even find people that want to commit some type of harm to themselves and they can't resist it. In fact, the reality is full of this. So when we pull back the curtain on this reality and we really see things as they are, it produces something rather interesting about life. It produces a scenario where we must, one, be very mature and take things serious. And two, give it no mind at all, as if it didn't even exist. It's a paradox. And many people caught in between these poles are having a pretty tough time figuring out which one they're going to be as they're being torn apart. But this is also why our ancestors gave us at least two vehicles, at least two. And these two vehicles can do either one of those and each one of those simultaneously. And so it's time for us today to unite with ourselves and to realize what's going on, to stop discarding this reality. I'm ready to leave Earth. I'm ready to leave this experience. I'm ready to leave home. I'm ready to leave. And start really, really seeing how dynamic you are for changing things. So the goal here then, if you can imagine that there is one, it's more like a milestone for us. We reach a milestone and then we keep moving through things. But the milestone is to awake the dreamer, dreaming as itself being separate. So I'm gonna walk you up the ladder very briefly through the process of high points of what we went through in the Ascent. Now, again, long format is available, but this is just a concise regrouping for all of us. Like, okay, where are we at exactly? Can you refresh me again on what it is that you were mentioning about how the climb should take place? There were some specific things that we noted. I believe that those things will be very important for people in the future going through the same process of the Ascent when they attempt to wake up from wherever they are. Now, there is a disclaimer here. You can opt out. That while, as I mentioned, we went down very deep and we brought some beings up that everybody forgot about, nobody cared about, and we rose them into a higher state of consciousness, and now they're on their way, they're on their cleanses, they have families, they're doing great. It's very important for us to realize that when you start getting yourself into things that you really don't understand, like you get convinced to sign your name on papers, to use certain kind of talismans, all these different kind of things we already know is going on in the reality, it starts depressing you. Literally, it pushes your frequency down because it's putting weights on you. And if you could visualize yourself even in those states, you would not actually really be on the surface. You would be kind of in the negative zone. They call this the underworld. This is when a being falls into a series of layers of sleep. A series of layers of sleep. And what happens in this phase is the being starts dreaming of itself as being separate from everything else. The sheer proof of how the reality exists is just imagine that every night when you dream of yourself as something that you think is you. But if you ever get a mirror or you ever can see a reflection, you'll see that in fact, it doesn't look like you. So you dream every night, even sometimes separate dreams, doing different things, but you dream of yourself as being separate, as a being that is completely unified. So just like you can do it, you have to imagine that there's very large, very vast macro-based life forms that are doing the same thing. They're dreaming of themselves being separate. And those dreams look like this world and where it's gone right now because of the dream. So as I mentioned, the goal is to awake these dreamers, dreaming of themselves being separate, fighting in a chamber, a cube of mirrors of reflections with themselves, only seeing a shattered part of the reality because their lens is dirty or their lens is cracked. Those are the chakras or the eyes. And then also the power and the potential that our ancestors gave us of not only coming into the awareness of that, but also going into the being you are and repairing those temples, repairing that glass, getting your refractions and things together. So our first principle was why good triumphs in the continuum. It was very interesting to me in the binary world. It was always good or bad, black or white, on or off. And you could see clearly how that wasn't going to get you anywhere. It was not anything that was going to allow you to be able to progress. You had to have a floating point in there for the energy to keep moving. And in that awareness, I realized that, see, because there's no time, if what you're calling good ever lost, nothing would be here right now. The forces that seem like they're so big and bad, they would just as soon as destroy everything. So since there's no time, if the world or the universe or the sun or anything that is on the superior, supreme level ever was a direct opposite to bad, or bad was ever a challenge for it and bad ever won, nothing would be here in the beginning. So see, what good is an opportunity to be on the side of the winners. It's not something that is a battle taking place and ultimately one is going to win. Bad never won. So thus, it's not an equivalent to what we would call good. So I find many of our odds like that. Many of the things that we think good, bad about, that when we see the truth to the matter, they're not even real opposites to each other. So that was the first principle that I wanted to bring here into this space, is the awareness that just to do right by yourself, to get yourself together, is just giving you an opportunity to win. Just standing with truth, when all of this blows through, we already know enough about what's going on here. We've had enough knowledge and information and all this kind of stuff. Now it's time to settle up. It's time to just say, okay, in conclusion, I'm going to go ahead and raise my vibration because I know that I'm in control of this vehicle. But make no mistake, there are a bunch of things that want to control it for you. And this is exactly what this reality is full of, controllers. Because if you're not going to take control of yourself, then something else will take control of you. So what we do is we relieve a person of those control mechanisms, and then we put them back in control through keys, codes, and ciphers and blueprints. This is not our first rodeo. This is not the first time coming into the matrix or a matrix, but it will be the last time. Because there's an ultimate lesson that does become learned here after a while. And that's, if you think any of this belongs to you, and you think you're in control, if you may, you think that you can control other things. This is the same thing that the controllers are having a problem with. You think you can control other things, then you become controlled by it. If you say that you're the originator of everything, then you become responsible for it. And there's a scripture that says in the Bhagavad Gita, the fool imagines that he is the doer. And what they're saying is it's not just the cocky person that thinks that they're responsible for everything that they have, even the breath that they take, that it all belongs to them. But it's also on a deep level. And as we dig into those deep levels, what we realize, again, as I said, there's a disclaimer here that if there could be only one of two reasons why you end up in a lower vibration. One, you have done things that have put you into this space over prolonged periods of time with your DNA, that your family line and how it's handling the DNA, nobody is doing the work to get the DNA to spin so that you can go back up the ladder, and then you can pass the DNA on to your children. You can pass the DNA on to others that are around you, and it starts to get them into alignment. Nobody has done that work, and so thus one is descending. They have this entropy, a fallen star, okay? In this case, a fallen pentagram. Or two, you are an avatar. Now, it turns out that, so as one expands continuously beyond this space, there does become a space where it's like there's nothing there. It literally rips what we call memories to shreds. So this realm was called the subjective plane. It's kind of like the recycling bin of the universe, if you may. It really consists of only higher elements, hydrogen, things like this, gases. So it's interesting how now we have this opportunity to basically realize that if what the technology that had been developed, let me just center myself here. So the technology that had been developed by our ancestors was to basically be able to stand at the door of the subjective plane. That they had basically witnessed beings walking into the subjective plane and never returning, because there you join with omniscience. So they kind of created this hack. It was literally standing at the door. It's like standing at the fourth or the fifth dimension and allowing the body, if you may, to come into a perpetual regeneration. So the body could be reanimated into any space. And what will be retained is the memories. Now, for sure, the avatars are doing this, and I'm pretty sure there's probably other beings that are doing this for a different reason. But I will say the avatars are who we're focusing on. Those who have come into this space have gone to sleep, because you need to basically put yourself into levels of sleep in order to be able to wake up into these dense realms. Then when you wake up here, you have amnesia, just like when you wake up in a dream. The dream starts slipping really fast about where you were, who you are, what's going on. That's a product of the vibration. So with that kind of insert, you would basically be inserting yourself into a lower vibratory field, planting yourself into a low vibratory field. And then you would be waking up in that low vibratory field in order to do the guardianship or the gardening work. This is basically, since we all are in the prana and eating from the pranayama, we all have to till in the field, if you may. We all have to do our work here and continuously bring the seeds through the process of growing, basically planting trees. So how that plays out is that now the trees are the human beings and the children are the seeds, and planting those seeds is giving them things that will help them, creating things that will assist them in the future, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see when you don't do those works, though, you basically, your vehicle starts to slow down. See, the sun is the inspiration. It's a part of a code. It does the work all the time. There's no sunset for the sun. It's a symbol of what a part of you is like. Half of you, at least, is always on the move, warm, It's always sunny. It's always bright. It's always sharing. It's always giving. And so when you get into these spaces, from me to you, it's important to be able to light up your sun in the event that things start getting dark around you and you start needing the power and the potential that is needed for you to finish and complete your mission as an avatar. So that's the disclaimer. Because maybe some of the things that I say tonight, it may rub you in a way like, well, no, that's not me. But maybe you're the avatar and you just put yourself in that position so that you can get in here and actually do something about a situation that you know is presenting itself. This situation about, like, there's a lot of mental instability. There's a lot of bullshit in the conscious community. There's a lack of integrity going on. There's a need for beings that are just themselves. You don't have to be able to do nothing really special, but be yourself, unlock your uniqueness, etc. We see there's a lot of competition going on. There's a lot of trash that needs to be cleaned out or burned up or whatever has to happen. So we are all in ourselves a part of a vessel that is more than capable of doing those things, maintaining and sustaining this, and then also bringing in something totally different that has never been seen before. Nothing from, they say, nothing's new under the sun, beyond this sun, which is the potential that you have. So to be able to gain this, and again, we're going through just the high points here, to be able to gain this, a way of dialing that into yourself is to what I call unlock the perfect disciple. And what this riddle goes like is that, let's imagine that you have taken something to complete mastery. Let's just close your eyes for a moment, that you have inherited the mastery. And now your mastery is sweeping through the land. Lots of beings are hearing about this technique that you have, and they want to learn about this from you. But you know, because of the exclusivity of the mastery and how much energy and intention you must put into it, you can't take on but one disciple. What is it that you expect for that disciple to be like? What do you want him to do or her do? So when you sit into that thought for a moment, you may find yourself like, oh man, if I'm a master, they're going to have to do this and this. They're going to have to make sure they up early in the morning at 5 a.m. You know, I want my moccasins cleaned. We need to hit all the corners. They need to be on a perfect diet. They also need to be a chef and know how to cook the raw vegan. They also have to do yoga every single morning. They have to. And then when you're finally done, stay in that state of consciousness. But when you're finally done, know that's how you should be. This is a moment of truth with self. That's how you should be. Sit down for a moment and have that experience yourself about the perfect disciple. Let your consciousness go out to what would you accept, or how would you accept this person to accept this mastery that you're going to give them? And then become that way. And what happens is you unlock something. It's not visible to the naked eye. It brings you in to a process of self-discovery within yourself through a myriad. This is only a myriad of tools of showing you of how to experience existence. All these things in the world, to truly know what they are and to truly know what they mean. That is what is being given to you. It is an internal initiation. You are born into it. You're not sworn into it. It is your allotment. It is your gift. So in the ancient text, it says to be the perfect disciple to yourself, not to anybody external. Once you unlock that, you now come into the tutelage. Now, right away, what you realize is that everything that you see going on is actually being controlled by something else. You have micromanagers in the system, and those are the human governments and things, but truly the elements are in control. Nature is why people do what they do. And if you think for one moment that that's not true, let the sun not shine. Let the moon crack. Let the earth that you stand on be removed. From that powerful level alone, wind, let the air be cut off. One would realize very fast that there are other elements much more powerful that they depend on. So that's why they say, woe to the fool who imagines that he or she is the doer. Because you take on this extreme burden, not only are you blind, but what you think you're controlling and that you created, you don't even know how it operates. So you have to come in, again, as a disciple of yourself and come in for the real lesson. Lesson number one is, how does it operate? So by the end of this presentation today, especially with my 30-minute video, which I'm going to get to, I'm going to actually rapid fire. This is only a very, very broad overview of the materials. But again, the high points that we wanted to share, I never get tired of building more and more into this. So these 4 elements, if you may, is our key of how we unlock our ability to actually utilize nature, if you may. Like, you got to be very, very careful with these words. I like it to be very simple in explanations. Imagine, let's say the puppet. Generally, it has 4. They generally have 4 little sticks on the puppet, and that controls the hand, that controls the legs, and then they got the one in the center that's pinned to the head. So imagine that how you move those 4 sticks is what the puppet does. So your awareness, your activation shows you how to see where the strings are to those elements through yourself. So internally, you see your ability to control fire, your ability to control water, your ability to control air, your ability to control earth. However, this is an extreme responsibility. This is like giving the keys to one of the most advanced vehicles to another being. Like, did your mother give you the keys to the car the moment you came right out of the womb? So this is why we even call this symbol the master key, that equilateral cross. It's the master key of the awareness that the 4 elements can be pulled, because you can produce, you have fire, you have water, you have wind, and you have earth. And because of that, because you were created from those elements, you also have an ability to enact and control and manipulate those elements in your reality. But you have to do it through yourself first. So all the fake magic is, it teaches you how to go out and try to find out how to control external forces that correspond to these elements. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. This is all for the fools who imagine that they would unlock such powers and potentials in an external finite existence. It can only be unlocked within. So the next level of power is to realize that when you begin to make the ascent, it may look like around you that maybe people are leaving. You're starting to become maybe alone by yourself. And sometimes this is taken as a sign that maybe you're in the wrong direction. After all, shouldn't you be going where everybody is and everybody accepts you? Take this into the context of a cleanse, though. When you start going through a cleanse, are you picking up more weight or are you losing weight? You're losing weight. What are you losing? You're losing the toxins. So this proves, once again, as I said, those oddities, that losing is actually gaining in other aspects. This is what I'm saying about this. When you think binary, you don't get the floating point. So you stay caught in this piston like good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. You have to have that floating point so that you can see how all of this blurs together, because then what you'll realize is actually everything comes from the rain. You're like, what? No, man, there's a lot of other stuff. I'm telling you, everything here on earth comes from the rain, because inside of the rain is the molecule that everything is made out of. They call that hydrogen. And then from that molecule, you can make all the other molecules. And in fact, all the other molecules are just mixtures of that molecule taken into different states. But when you come back around on the metaphysical end, they just tell you, hey, it's a fractal, all of it's connected. But they're not telling you it's also a chemical. And it's all connected. And when you understand how to tap into that fuel, rather than, as I talk about chicken grease, other people's feelings and emotions, likes, all the external things, you have now tapped into the refined fuel. And in refined fuels, there's virtually no karma. Meaning that your karma is your waste at times. It is the result. So when you eat something, your karma is what goes in the toilet, technically. But there are things that you can eat, and you also notice that your body doesn't really, it's like 100% assimilable. Like they say, what is the most, what is food the food that's most assimilable? Eggs, right? Basically what we are. So it tells you that there's a higher refinement, of course, even beyond eggs, that with that, there's no waste. And that's what this training also was about in the Ascent, is we were able to identify how to honor up the lower chakras into the higher chakras. This is just called worshiping the devas, right? So those who are looking outside, they're going to try to find some statues. They're going to try to find a bunch of stuff to put in front of things and beg it for something. When what is mentioned in the book so many times is that only fools look and interpret these words externally. Internally, to worship your own devas means to worship your organs or to worship your chakras. And the highest honor you can give the chakras is to allow the lower energies to actually become refined and then honor them up. You would literally breathe them up into your higher chakras, and it's like a fuel that ignites and powers up these vessels. And then once these vessels turn on, you find that the lower vessels become stabilized and you don't leak. You find yourself on a very, very solid foundation. So there are beings that have already said that, hey, I'm going to spend at least 3 more lifetimes on earth to work on my root chakra. So while most people are trying to get out of here, there's already advanced beings that know that there's lessons that can be learned here. There's things that can be experienced here. There's growth that can be made here. And they're doing that. That's the goals that they have. That's their vision board. And your vision board can be like that too. You could take this opportunity for yourself today to renew yourself and to restore yourself. This day, I guess they got, as I said, this is like, I guess, the Passover or whatever. They always, the angels coming and they're going to die and all this stuff that they put together for themselves. We choose life. We choose growth, happiness, compassion, exploration, newness. That's what we prefer. That's not something that will ever fade, or this wouldn't be here. They would have been tore it up. They would have tore it all down. There would be no sun. There would be nothing, because they would be too ignorant to manage it all. So understand where the power always is. Know that something, you mainly, is watching you through your third eye up there, watching you go through this experience and this awareness to see if you're true about what you say, because you say a lot of things. But it's about what you do. You could say you want to be a fireman. You could say you want to help children. You could say you're Superman. But unless you go flip over a car, unless you go and grab that hammer and run into that burning building, you're just thinking about it. So there's a difference. Those of us who constantly remain in action, yoga is a big action. The physical yoga is a big action. It's a hack. It allows you to burn off thousands and thousands of years. They say even millions of years worth of karma. When I say it's a hack, it's because, as I said before, our ancestors figured out ways to maintain their physical bodies. They figured out ways to align themselves with the cosmos and to jump off the vehicle into its perpetual strength. And they brought this knowledge here, and the knowledge is here now. But what do people really prefer? They want the conflict, right? So let's keep going. As I said before, everything comes from the rain. So in that respect, because those are dense things, everything here coming from the rain, you have to realize that what you really specialize in is actually electromagnetics. You're really more of an electromagnetic projection being. How do you know? Because when you go to sleep at night and you see all of that, you're not seeing a chair. You're seeing an electromagnetic chair. You're not seeing a city. You're seeing an electromagnetic city. You're seeing that you actually have the ability with your projector to project out in the electromagnetic spectrum the world you walk into. So that would let you know that life goals, afterlife goals would be to get yourself into a position of being able to inherit the potential of being able to control your projector. So in this way, as you begin to go to your own world that you create, which is lucid dreaming, when you do pass on from this in what I call the perfect curve, this means that the spirit is getting stronger, the body starts getting weaker, the spirit already begins to explore, meaning this is when you're getting older, not your 40s, your 50s, your 70s, your 80s. Now you already got the big smile on your face because you've been doing the work. So your spirit is so strong that even though the body is getting weak, it's perfect because it's letting go. And every night you fly. So you're already seeing more and more of where you're going to go. So while everybody else is all sad about you leaving, you've already done the work and you hit the perfect curve. So when you leave, you go to what you are already doing already. So that being of electromagnetics has to understand how the electromagnetic fields really work. But also remember that, as I've learned in so many different ways during this journey, when you unlock the power and the potential of who we really are, it always involves merging the two hemispheres. Everything about power always involves merging two opposites. But what is the phenomenon of merging two opposites? Explosion. And thus, we've actually seen some folks lose their damn minds. Literally, they lose their mind. They connect the left and right hemispheres, but because they don't understand how each of them communicate, they never spent that time. It takes time. You got to take time with yourself. Look at this. It's not even with someone else. You got to take time with yourself, figuring out how the left hemisphere communicates with the right hemisphere and how they can get along with each other, and that one could work for the, like when I used to tell people, I said, look, and if you ever align anything with what God wants to do, it seems to happen automatically. That's because that's a certain hemisphere of your brain. And when you align yourself with whatever that hemisphere of the brain wants, because it exists in a world that doesn't have any limits. If you told it, yo, throw over the car, it would just throw over the car. It's only the other side of the brain, which is trying to feel through the reality like tentacles, what the experience is. And it can't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel comfortable with when you look down, there's no floor. It doesn't it's not comfortable in an abyss or a vault or a vast open space of darkness. It needs lights. It needs a couch. It needs a cat. You see what I mean? So this is the beauty of this. Like, man, I know the ancestors back there a lot with the popcorn. Like, yo, this is getting pretty interesting. You know, if they're heating it up. You know, they got a bunch of current going on down there. Let's see what goes on. And then while we're in this, we have to remember that while all this is going on around us, you're going to have some folks, some beings, some souls getting recycled. They're just going to fly right into the subconscious fan. But what you have to be on point with is realizing that your control of your life force, this is another high point. Your control of your life force is very similar to when you're in a air balloon and you have that thing that, and you lift up. And then you had the other thing that, you know, it can pull you down, right? That's your life force control, basically. And you have to realize that your life force is so important. It's not worth ain't nobody's worth the life force. This is like you giving them $1,000 right away off bat. Like, listen, think about how backwards this is. That's what I tell you, the world is really backwards. Imagine a person pisses me off and I give them $1,000. Does that make sense? I'm telling you, we're literally doing that. We're giving them more than that. How much is your life force worth? You would have to be able to calculate your own value to be able to determine that, right? So when you know that you have a high value, you know that your life force, like, whoa, they'll be coming for it. So you got to buoy yourself up sometime. But I'm just saying, imagine that you're building life force and then someone taps you for your life force. They make you mad. They make you upset. You're tapped in a little bit to the external. One of your chakras has a tentacle trying to see the world externally, and it's plugged into another being that is trying to see the world externally. And then you catch a reaction. And then what happens? You lose life force. Why? Okay, very simple. Let's just put this in the realm of kids. When you laugh, you gain life force. When you're sad, you lose life force. It's as simple as that. Okay, so when you laugh and you teach yourself how to laugh as things are being confirmed to you, it's not a Joker laugh. Like, you're going mad. It's not that laugh. I'm talking about the real laugh. Like, whoa, it is really like that. The folks, man, they haven't even come out of the underworld yet. It's like, I'm on the way up. Yeah, I'll catch you when we get back. Yay. It's just like starting to really realize that the behavior you're seeing is actually because of the product of the realm or the dimension that being is in. So a person can be in a dementia, right? Just as soon as a person can have nightmares, a person could be in a whole different dimension, and you can be standing right there next to them, and they can be articulating and talking about things from their dimension. And now as Time Lords, we have an opportunity to get into any dimension, but you got to ask yourself if you want to enter into any of these dark realms that some of these beings have going on, where everyone's the enemy. Everything is evil. The whole thing. It's like, even if it all is, it's got you too. But it's like, I would just defy it anyway by having a smile on my face. It's like at the end, like the laugh box, but it's a real one. Like I'm just there laughing. They're like, man, he just couldn't buy into the whole death thing. You being like this is the full potential of who you truly are. So life force control was a big, big one. And again, we're cruising along over the high points. Now, also remember, you are in respect then until you decide to win the battle, actually in a battle. So some don't want to accept that as like, man, I'm not in a battle. But, it's just as soon as like there's bacterias that are out here. There are, you had a battle when you first were born, just getting into the womb after the whole 5,000 or whatever semen was trying to do the same thing. You had a battle, just staying alive in the womb. Your mom was partying. You know what I mean? You're just like trying to stay alive. Then you came out and now you're just trying to figure out where you are. And like somebody drop you out of crib, boom, staying alive. It's just a battle again. And then now some virus, some cold. And then now here we are in 2021. There's an airborne virus that's supposed to be killing people. And, we're all walking around with masks on. And somebody's trying to tell me that now is not the time, that we still have a little bit more time. This looks like Blade Runner damn near out here right now. So when is it all going to kick in? It kicks in now. This application of this knowledge and this wisdom that we have. So just remembering that these forces that you're battling against, these bad habits, if you may, or hobbits, these are the ones that we call them King Ingo. They assault the entire throne room and take over and try to use all the chakras, mainly the lower ones, for immediate pleasures. Like they just keep cashing out on your balance, literally. And in this, you got to imagine that they wouldn't even give you a space as long or as wide as a needle of freedom unless you take it. To be free is to be out of the body, to glide on beyond this experience, to get out the box, which you're going to see how this is structured here in a moment. But you got to remember that the opponent, if you may, in the game being played in the box, wouldn't even give you a breadth of a needle of your consciousness if it was up to it. It would take every single moment of your life and your existence, working, distracted over here, drinking, on this plane, going to this country with these girls, hollering at this one guy, whatever, on a nonstop basis, so it can keep trying to run, it looks like it's like trying to command your mains or trying to command your chakras or your horses. And they're just running off further and further into the external world like madness. It wouldn't give you any of that back unless you took it. That's why we always say, steal your mind. Take your mind back. Steal your mind. This means to stop your mind. Steal your mind, meaning to take your mind back. So also remember, as we talked about earlier, how does that manifest normally? A person cannot resist doing things that are even killing them. That's how much this war is on and popping right now. A person will just go right through a bottle of Coca-Cola, just scorch out every organ, which are your chakras. And then from that point, this chakra is damaged. It has too much glucose, too much glutamate, too much sugar, too much. This is not fuel that can be honored up to the higher devas of self. If anything, this is going to produce a distorted daemon aspect of self. It's going to lower the vibration. And that's just what's happening. It's chemistry, right? So again, it tastes so good, though. I'm not here to tell you if you're doing that you're the bad one, because there's a whole list, right? I'm just saying you're the manager and the Lord of your own life. And just watch yourself sometime. See how many things that are on that list that you're even doing that you know is killing you. And then realize that knowledge and awareness that the war that we face within, the beings that we're dealing with in there, they wouldn't even give us a little bit of our lives unless we took it back. So that's what rouses us on the field today. That's what rouses us here for this knowledge and this awareness. That's what has me here, that I will always rage against this dying of the light. I will always keep bucking the system, keep making sure that I'm on point, keep making sure that I bring this message. I'm going to always be doing that. And it fills my being. It fills my purpose. So we have to find this also in ourselves. So the last things here are to remember that the soul doesn't actually experience pain. And this is a very, very interesting thing because it completes, again, the paradox that, of course, beings that are more tuned into their soul actually also experience less physical pain. Even their empathy itself is actually refined. If you could remember, there are actually people who have already showed in mastery of the four elements that they are impervious to things like fire, walking on coals, impervious to things like wind. They could deal with extreme temperatures, water, frigid temperatures, diving for hours, not breathing, and on journeys, not breathing, not drinking water or mastering water, dreaming in water. So all of these different elements we've already come to in our existence of humanity, our DNA, a crescendo of. So it's important to remember that that crescendo is the soul, and it doesn't experience pain. It's a master of the four elements. So while you may be in the experience in the physical vehicle and you can experience pain here, you also have to remember that there's a part of you that doesn't actually experience pain. And oftentimes that becomes our refuge in what we're experiencing from time to time here in this space. In fact, they always would say, especially in psychological journeys, there was a lot of different works that were written that talked about that when a person experienced pain, that they would alter. They would literally leave their body or leave their consciousness. And of course, that could be very damaging for the person if they never returned or seeded back into their consciousness. They would seem to be somewhat abstract. However, the phenomena itself always occurs. So it's letting us know that there's a part of us that knows how to dole out pain, even actual physical pain. So what more than pain that has occurred to the heart or pain that has occurred in an illusion? I always say that pain is a payment here in the universe or the university for the lesson that is being taught. So we can either be taught that way or we can start teaching ourselves. I've always found that when I stay on point, when I just like everything that I'm saying, doing here, that I just try to check off the list every day and make sure that I'm expanding in some way, we good. The moment that I have a sensor, I can sense when stuff's getting offline. You probably have your own sensor. For me, I break things. I'll drop something. I never drop anything. I never break anything. So when I drop something or break it, I stop everything. It's my warning, like something's up. There's a glitch in the matrix. Sit down, center yourself. What's going on? Have your check and balance system with yourself. This is your own management system, your own heads up display of you that tells you, okay, this is the point that I'm getting off balance. So stay on balance. Now, I want to play this recording because actually, if we don't get to this, it may be an all-nighter. And I have some slides that I'm going to display with this recording. But before I do that, I wanted to mention that the reason why, well, some call it work. I call it funning. Some call it working. I call it funning. And if it's not fun anymore, then what you have to do is you have to step back once again, make an assessment of what's going on, see if you're really working with your uniqueness and that you haven't got off track somewhere. I'm telling all you creators out there, if it starts to become like work and you're not funning, as I call it, then unless it's just that grind, because you gotta climb out of the netherworld, you gotta get stuff straight, you gotta balance out with whatever it is that you have going on. But if you find it to be a continuous thing, you may want to check base and see, hey, am I still doing in my uniqueness? Am I really having a great time with this experience? Because the reality is there are also in every essence, even if it's just those who are sharing your DNA, beings that are looking to you. You can even say they're looking up to you, like you look up to the sun. And so imagine, as I said before, since the sun is the inspiration, imagine your inspiration is no longer there anymore. So this is why we keep going. If you ever feel like you're getting tired, I can't tell you it's just in your mind. You need to rearrange what's going on around you. You need to check back in with yourself, restore the temple, make sure you're spending enough time for yourself. Get into the maintenance. That's what we do. We do the maintenance. But you should always be ready to come in for this fun. And if you don't feel like that, you need to go in and get your restoration process. I think I said that twice, but it's that important because the reason why they call it the prime mover, the reason why the prime mover keeps moving is because if it stops moving, this is everything in the actual vibratory fields. If it stops moving, everything else starts to loop. So how that's a big example for when someone starts to look up to, let's say, a government, right? And then the government stops expanding and stops growing. Everybody just starts looping. It's like they get caught in a whole pattern. They go back around. They're like, well, shoot, the highest one that we're trusting in is at the stage that we're at right now. We need to, I guess, go back around and come back again. So this is why it's always necessary because it is there, the expansion is there for us to keep refining and distilling everything that we're experiencing and keep sharing that. Because that is the fun. I don't want to call it the work, but that's the fun. And again, this is so important. The reason why I'm building into this is because that's the fuel. It's the fuel. Like if you're not able to come in and you're not able to have fun and you're not able to inspire, then you actually start becoming something else. And so if you can say that, hey, in my world, in the afterlife, I want a sun there. I want a light there, even if that light is you. Then you have to shape and form and fashion yourself after the ideals of that light. And so that's why we do the work. The fun. It can feel like work, but it's supposed to get fun. So I wanted to just bring one final awareness to that in the mind, that in this mind is the final battle. Now, of course, this was kind of tough for me to do even today, to just go over parts of the Ascent. But since I said I was going to do it anyway, I decided to jump into it. However, the process in which the knowledge is brought out and the wisdom is gained is key. And so when we began to walk up this ladder, there's almost, if I said there was maybe roughly 8 points today that we went over, there's about at least 90 points inside of the Ascent. I don't know, maybe even Dominic probably broke it down even further. How many different points of knowledge are actually inside of the build? So even just driving over it right now and saying, hey, here are some of the high points, I feel like it doesn't even do it the greatest justice, but I trust that from these things that you're able to gain quite a bit. And just to understand that when you're alone, this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with your mind. And if part of the goal here is to realize what's going on inside of you and what you are inside, not everybody else, that means you would actually find the space that you go into to begin that in your mind. So that's why we say the final battle is actually in this mind. And the best thing to do is to get in this consciousness now and start really, really working in on it. Start getting your meditations and things together, because when you're leaking light, and this is the final aspect of things before I play this clip on the blueprint. When you're leaking light, what it literally is that your body is basically, and your soul and how it's configured is like a self-contained unit. And if you can imagine that what your body has is it has these refractors, like literally bent angles like mirrors, that when your chakras light up, it bounces off these mirrors and condenses into the next frame. So this means that when the body is into its perfect alignment, it's able to jump off as like a perpetual vehicle powering itself by light. In fact, it is doing that even right now. But what's most important to remember is that like fiber optics, light can leak. That if there's like an opening or a crack or a hole inside of the chakra or inside of the field of the chakra, even the organ, because the organ will manifest that physically, then it will leak light. And then what happens is that your life starts to become primarily about that, like what that chakra is related to. Because what's literally happening is the light is what you're using to project and you're using to create from. So when it starts spewing out of one chakra, let's say, imagine it's spewing out of the root chakra. That's maybe where a leak is. So the only thing that you're going to create around you is all of the root chakra stuff, because all your light is leaking from that space. Likewise, even if it goes higher, some have brought their energy into even their throat chakra, but the energy can leak here. This is sometimes our singers, our rappers. Right? They could be right there, but all of the whole life is coming right from the mouth. Their lives become everything coming from here. And if they would close that, then the rest of the energy would go up, and it would. Sometimes you could be so close, but so far. That's what's paradoxical about this reality. Like that same thing that could restore you is the same thing that can destroy you. So let us all be in awareness that this blueprint that I'm going to speak on right now in this recording is a big key to our experience here in this space of making sure that we're able to contain and maintain our life force. This blueprint is not only new, it's not new, but to know the real meaning of the imagery and the symbols being used inside of it gives you a key to leave the finite and to go into the infinite. So let's listen to that now. You know what? I got something really special for everyone today, and it's really going to give us another way to go into this, because this is 10 years for me. So every time I come in on a session to share this high level of metaphysical knowledge, I look to do that in a way that encompasses everything that was important that I mentioned before, or that I learned before. It's also very imperative for all of us to realize here today that we actually play conduits of each other's energy, and the connections that we share with each other are indeed real. Even if you feel like, oh, I don't know this person, because everything is connected, you actually do. And when someone is aware of that, or a group of beings are aware of that, they use that in order to communicate, in order to get any kind of resolution across, or any kind of form of communication across that is needed. So if I'm even coming into this space today, that means that I'm going to come in here and look to communicate with you in a way that is going to be different than other things that you may have experienced before. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm constantly in search of solutions. And what I notice is that even when they, again, exhibit with artificial intelligence, how it basically hacks systems, or how it comes up with solutions for things that people think are impossible, is it keeps trying, and it starts using things that may have not been thought of. So in that, I feel like that when we're having these kind of conversations about consciousness, it then becomes a journey inside of a person's mind and how well they can articulate their experience. And while this has got us so far, it may have got us to the point of even where we're at right now with how much we understand about consciousness, it still can't be seen as a superior form of communication just because it's verbal, and it's also a variable. It's based on the conduit, the person who's the orchestrator, the person who's speaking, the condition that they're in, and their actual experiences. And if we keep operating like this before even initiating a space with a blueprint or a template that everyone can visualize or come into awareness of seeing as an image, right? So visualizing it or seeing it as an image, and then allowing that image or that principle to become the template that we're all using to determine where we're at, what we're talking about, and what's going on. So very simply, what I'm saying is that the power in templates, which I'm going to show you one today, and it's going to explain exactly how we're actually in a simulation and what is a simulated dream, and then what it is even when real people would connect, and what that would actually be like. And I'm saying it that way because I too am also on my journey, just like you, to experience more and more of who I truly am as everything, right? So you can see the more resistance I have to the adaptation of all the stuff that's really out here, the longer it's going to take for me to realize who I truly am. Because if you notice in reality, here's certain things that people don't really take account of because they have feelings. And as I mentioned before, feelings are often different than fact. When you watch nature create things, if you look at a leaf, you'll find that the leaf is not actually perfectly symmetric. In fact, a lot of things that you see here that especially are based on more denser matter, like wood, stone, you'll actually see that when nature creates it, it won't actually be balanced. Go outside if you want to refute this, grab a leaf, and you know what symmetry is because you can draw symmetry. Symmetry is basically mirroring something. And if you look at it, you won't find that symmetry exactly present there. So this means then that if you just realize that fact alone, you would understand how Earth itself and the codes that's being used here are not designed for when it gets into the most divided objects, for those objects to be balanced. It's only when you pull off this thing completely. And I don't know, come out of your body, come out of your soul, come out of every single ID, and then look, will you actually really see this perfect geometry? And sometimes people that get on certain substances, they can see this. It depends on where they're at. If they're up on a mountain, or if they've blown open a certain part of their third eye, they see this unified field. They see this geometry. But there's seldom any real conversation about, so what is that geometry and what is it telling us? So the first rule here is to just understand that in the physical reality, quote unquote, that we're living in right now, when it creates something organically, it does not create it as you see it perfect. It creates it in a non-centered, imperfect way. So if you take a piece of paper right now, and I'll give everybody a moment to go and get a piece of paper and go and get a pen, I'm going to have you draw a template. And then I'm going to explain to you what that template is on a metaphysical level. And then from here on, you will have a map of existence. So you understand that even if you go into a meditation and you meditate on this and you basically bring yourself out of these worlds and these IDs, then you'll make it into an actual state where your consciousness will be clear and there won't be any confusions about what's going on in the experience, or what we're calling the dream, because you will actually be awake. And when you're awake, there's an energetic signature to being awake. There's an actual feeling. The body will either start rocking back and forth because the field, like a gyroscope, has now increased in frequency. And and the only way you're going to be able to see things perfectly the way they are is if you actually increase in frequency, because as I just mentioned to you, the denser things look like they're off center and off balance. So the first thing is realizing we're going to now do this from the perceived inside out. Okay? But I'm going to show you how this is really outside in. But the way we're going to do it, it's going to seem like we're going from the inside out, which is going to prove also that people are basically flipped inside out. Because they went external so far, it flipped their fields inside out. So everything they perceive is all external. So the first symbol that you're going to draw in the center is just the equilateral cross. Not a Jesus cross with the unbalanced side on it, with the big bottom and the small top. We're talking about just the equilateral cross, which is a universal symbol for what? It's called the 4 elements: fire, earth, wind, water. Now watch how this knowledge begins to unfold. So it's saying that from the inside out, that the construct itself and the things that are made from that are made from these elements: fire, earth, wind, and water. And when we investigate that, we find even in physics, chemistry, etc., that happens to be true. That combinations of fire, earth, wind, and water create all the material matter that is around us. Okay, now we're going to draw the next shape. All you're going to do is connect all the lines with a straight line. So that way it looks like a square. This is the metaphorical square that is always discussed in occultism. This square, it reveals quite a few things as we begin to unfold this. Remember, we're going from the inside out. The square means it's something that has been built by man's hands. Now, I'm going to have to go over this exact thing on Sunday, by the way, in Sovereignty Mentorship. So for those that are going to participate in that, just get ready to hear this again. But I felt that it would just totally be improper to begin anything that we're spending our time and our energy on without bringing the best that we've discovered to this point to be able to be a solution for others. So I feel that, again, going in the mind and hearing conversation is not enough. You need a visual guide of what's going on in the experience, because it serves as like a legend for you to be able to anchor yourself back into what exactly is going on when you're experiencing something. So we have the square around this, and esoterically the square means everything that has been built by man's hands. Now, this becomes tricky because at this stage, we feel like things built by man's hands are like the stadium, the buildings downtown New York, et cetera, et cetera. And we see this quote unquote man's hands built world, and we think we're talking about that, but that's a misconception, because the temples that are out in Sri Lanka were built by man's hands. The pyramids that are out in Kemet were built by man's hands. But these structures themselves are actually a symbol of something. What is it a symbol of? What is a temple a symbol of? The body. And the riddle is saying when something is built by man's hands, it has man's hand. This is how, what I was saying by it's one click off. Some people are so busy looking at the temples, they're not realizing the temple is a symbol of the body. And when we mean it was built by man's hands, means that the body was built by man's hands. So we start to investigate this. And what we find out is that the dinonucleic structure of the configuration of the human being is in fact a hack. It is something that has been put together by some advanced life forms, i.e. grandparents, ancestors, elders, and it has been built in a certain way. Just like a person would build a temple, they could build it to their liking. So the body is actually the square. Now, if you want to actually confirm this to yourself, because all the systems are redundant in these kind of fractal-based systems. So look at, if you're in the house right now, where in your house, generally, for 90% of the people, you're looking at a bunch of squares. Okay? So when you step outside of the house and you step into what would be nature generally, now you draw your third symbol. Your third symbol is actually around that square is a circle. So go ahead and draw a circle around that square. Now this circle that we're drawing right now is actually the circle of the organic dream, if you may. This means that how this is constructed, because you hear this knowledge and, you hear from the beginning of time about Gaia's dream. And the story goes on that there's a much more larger being that is like our mother, and it's actually asleep, and it's dreaming of us. And because that was brought over into the Greek text, a lot of people don't take that serious, because it was taken serious the Greeks. You would need the lexicon to decode how they took the gods of Kemet or the energies of Kemet and actually brought them over into their own vernacular and encoded them again so that the fools would not understand the mysteries. So the story of Gaia is almost like a Disney story at this point for most people, or just a faint storybook. But the story goes that a larger, more massive being, almost in itself just a womb, was able to conceive a dream from a higher level of awareness and a higher level of knowledge. And it uses what we call organic things, phi, the golden mean, the golden door, the golden ratio, etc., the Fibonacci sequence. It uses that to create everything inside of its dream. So the awareness that you're reaching right now is that that means then that square that's inside of the circle is actually man, or the things that were built by man's hands are actually inside of that circle. And if you can realize what that circle is very similar to your mother's womb. No matter how much you punch inside of all of this, you cannot affect that circle. The womb is so thick, no matter what the baby is doing inside of it, it can't affect the womb. The womb is stronger than that, because it's not a strength who's stronger. It's a matter of codes. So let's go back to this square really quickly here, because it reveals a lot. It reveals to you that somebody, mainly those who built those pyramids, those who built those temples in Sri Lanka, those who abide by the cubit, which are that built the city of the sun, etc. Somebody is already understood not only the geometry, but also the energy, the tone, the vibration, the sound, and any art of how to create a dream within a dream by using the components of fire, earth, wind, water, even if it's in a simulated form, and creating a world around the other beings that are inside of it. So I want to explain this very clearly. Every adept and master knows, even if you go to ancient Africa, that the trials are really for you to master fire, earth, wind, water. And when people start seeing that externally, they imagine themselves battling fire. They imagine themselves Uh-oh. All right. Did that audio go out over there for y'all too? Okay. Hi, here we go. All right, give me 1 second, because this one's too hot to let it go by. Give me 1 second, because let me get this into another software. So yeah, that template. Let's give it a moment. Okay. Wow. Okay. Original recording is. Give me 1 second, everybody. Let me just check on this recording. It seemed like I know it was 32 minutes, but let me hear this. Every adept and master knows. Okay, yeah. All right, so let me find the master to this recording, and let's just take a brief moment everyone. If we can give it about 5 minutes, this probably be a really good time to, expand yourself for a moment, stretch out, you know what I mean? Take a breath. I'm going to go ahead and get the master recording real quick here because I know this was exactly 32 minutes, but it looks like it somehow just rendered out a part of it. And so let me go ahead and cut this song real quick, and we'll be right forward in just a moment. Might as well keep it moving.
We have here nitric acid, glycerine, and a special mixture of my own. Together it's horrible, dangerous stuff, blows you up. But mixed together in the right way, as only I know how, what do you think it makes? I don't know, sir. Of course you don't know. You don't know because only I know. If you knew and I didn't know, then you'd be teaching me instead of me teaching you. And for a student to teach his teacher, it's presumptuous and rude. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. Good. Is at peace. We have here nitric acid. There is no hunger. There is no violence. The environment is healed. Honesty, courtesy, and kindness are practiced by all. Our world has never been more perfect.
Tribe. So I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna have to play this directly from the reels. Turned out that this thing didn't render out properly, so I'm like, what shall I do? So let's I'm gonna have to kind of skip through this a little bit, see if I can pick right up where we left off. I think I have the 2 tracks, so let's give it a shot. So let me see real quick here. I want to play this. push it live. Okay, here's my sample. And that stuff gets all tangled together at times, even a chord 4. And the reason why I'm going to do that is give me 1 because second. I'm constantly in search of solutions. Be clear, but that circle. Yes, okay. And if you can realize what that circle is very similar to your mother's womb. Okay, here we go. So there must be this one right here. Let's try this.
Battling water or drowning, being pulled out of a matrix. Okay, that's the square. Artificial in this tense means that it was an artifice.
Okay.
Hey, if you could tap into the fire, the earth, the wind, the water inside, battling water or drowning, being pulled out of a burning house or trying to make it.
Okay, so it just was the whole second track. Okay, so I got it queued up over here. Let me see if I can boost the volume. Sean, how's that sounding on that end? I'm sure the volume is a little low, right?
Yeah, just a little bit, man.
Okay, so let me pump that thing 1 second. How's everything else doing over there? How's YouTube? I see them over here.
Yeah, everything is flowing, man, beautifully.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. Tell me what it sounds like to you over there.
Water or drowning, being pulled out of a burning house or trying to make it through a burning house.
How does that sound?
I'm up just a little bit.
Yeah, that was my cap. So give me 1 more second. I got another idea. Yeah, I can shoot this over right now. Right here. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. It's always a pleasure and an opportunity to be here together and thick and thin. Here we are. Okay, so it's this one, 16. All right, we're going to let this upload into the system real quick. Oh, snap, not enough memory. Okay, they want to hold the jewel. Okay, so we're going to keep going with this. I got to compress it now. Now they're like, okay, it's not enough memory, so let me compress it real quick. So in the meantime, this would be a good opportunity for if you are on the line today and you have something that you want to ask about that's already been about something that's already been presented, or you just want to say wholeness to the tribe, you can do so. And I've allowed the lines to be unmuted. So if you want to ask a question, if you want to just connect, we're on live wholeness, you can do so. I get this thing loaded in. Tough crowd, tough crowd.
Can you send me that beat?
No. Nah, for sure. I'm gonna drop it over right now. But yo, I went through 1,000 tracks, y'all. Serious. I went through 1,000 tracks. There's a lot of garbage out there, but man, I was like, yo, these are knocking. But only
I'm about to say that beat hard.
Yeah, I got that ear, man. I don't know, man. I could do something. All right, here we are. Okay, so it's loaded in finally. So bam, let me just do this. Just play by play here. All right, here we go. So I'm going to set it on this quick render to an MP3. All right, here we go. Boom. It's funny because when you're doing something like this and you're on live, it's like the brain is not available. It's like you be trying to access the brain, like, brain, help me out, brain. And the brain's like, la-da-dee-da. I don't have anything to do with this.
So true.
It's hilarious. Like, I love just being here, to be honest. Like, I've seen so much stuff at this point and experienced so many things. I'm just like, it's just, you just have to be cool in this whole thing. Like, you just have to be able to relax and take a breath and laugh at it all. And, just take the time to appreciate having ears, you know, being able to hear, having fingers to be able to type this thing, having a mind to be able to move these files over and even know what to do, you know, and then the cherry on top for me is just to be able to be available to other human beings in their experience, and to have been able to do this long. And, you know, it's truly an honor. So this thing is uploading in. It looks like it's going to take a little bit less than probably like 3 minutes, something like that, but it looks like it's good. So why I'm waiting on
Okay,
that.
wholeness.
Thank you. Wholeness.
I have, yes, I have a question.
Jump on in. Let's go. Thank you.
I wanted, we've talked about meditation. I've joined some of your meditations so far. What do you think about transcendental meditation? Is it the same or is it different?
It's interesting because meditation actually is the act of being still. It's medium. So we do have to put a word in front of meditation to explain other meditations like guided meditations, transcendental meditation, as you mentioned. For me, the primary one first would be probably more opportune because it gives you the ability to calibrate discernment. And this is just because I have found that in a lot of these transcendental journeys, there is a need to ground or to be grounded into that journey. Like, where am I going? Am I just taking the boat out and, you know, I have no destination and I'm just kind of like, you know, I have this captain and they're going to take me where they want me to go. You see what I mean? Versus where my true north is telling me I should go. And the only way to really turn on that particular system, the guidance system, is to really understand how to quiet the mind. And the mind will love to pawn off experience onto listening to something or someone else. So, but it still won't, like, let's say if you're quiet and still in your mind, let's say you're activating 100%. When you're going through a transcendental meditation, maybe you're activating about 60%, right? So it's meaning 60% of the being able to escape the consciousness and move yourself into the space that actually feels more like Shavasana. So also to be very clear, there is, as we talked about, there is an actual state that's looking to be achieved here. And that state is, you know, you experience it after the yoga session. So it's like, so if you look at yoga, basically, yoga is basically the advanced meditation because it's going to basically get the body so engaged. Like, okay, you got to remember you got to think of how you're doing a pose. You got to remember to time your breath. So you're doing a lot of thinking about you, but you will notice your mind has a tendency to wander off into other stuff even too during the yoga. But again, this process is what's getting you really prepared, even beyond just sitting yoga. Like, I feel like everything has the degree to the impact. Like, standing up and breathing has a different impact than sitting down and breathing has a different impact than laying down and breathing. The standing up one is way more powerful than the other ones. The energy is just like that. The second one, sitting down, it could get you somewhere. And then laying down, this is the most toughest one. You know, that's the lazy guy. Right?
Agreed.
So in that respect, all of these degrees of awareness or practice also have that same component in them. And for meditation specifically, I feel like the first goal is to really deal with masters for mastering the mind, right? Like they call it a mastermind. So let's go get the mastering of the mind knowledge from masters. And in this case, from what I've now seen in all of these different knowledge and teachings, there was enough of these masters still left over in India. Now, obviously, other cultures had their masters, but the condition of those masters right now are about the same as the condition of their temples. Like there's always a king, because a temple is not just there as like a church. A temple is there as a real resonator to the frequencies of the bodies of the nation. So when the temple starts to crumble, the nation is crumbling too simultaneously. So in India, we see they preserve, because that's coming all the way from the Dravidian, all the way from Nubia, all the way up and down. It's a channel. So this is literally like, some people are like, oh, you know, did they come from the bottom up there? Did they come from? It's an entire channel. It's like a spine even where the delta is, all this is a spine and an actual body stretching out. So the people moving up and down that spine, ultimately going to the north, which is where we see let's say the Algonquins and the Indians that are there, right? That's why they called them Indians. It wasn't like a pun or that they thought they were in the wrong place. They knew that the people that were in the United States, or what we're calling the United States now, all the way down to Lanka, were all connected in from a lineage level. So I guess what I'm getting at is that if you go there, you find, or just travel with their knowledge, you find that they were able to maintain a lot of the knowledge about these hacks, if you may, or these siddhas, which is the proper term, of ways in which you could utilize the gift that your parents had given you in order to maneuver yourself through the reality. But this would not really come to activity or working until you actually were able to still your mind. Because the mind, as we spoke on in these courses, is basically using a tentacle, something very similar to a etheric tentacle or cable, to perceive what is going on around it. And as we talked about, I'm pretty sure you heard this already, but it's basically blind. And then it goes into a frenzy if it can't figure out what's going on. So that way it's talking all the time. And thus, in that way, it's kind of interrupting the genuflection, which is the actual spiral of the process of the energy of how you will build it up within yourself. Right. And then so this meditation, I feel like first, transcendental is fun. I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I'm just saying making sure that the real meditation, the one that means the medium, is established as a priority. And then, transcendental, little mixture and things like that in there wouldn't hurt at all. So yeah, that's just wholeness.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get it going. I think I got my track uploaded properly, so let's give it a whirl. This is going to start right where we left off, more or less. And then it's going to cut off at a certain point, or I'm going to cut it off because we won't need to hear any more of it. But here we go.
You know what? I got something really special.
Okay, 1 second. It's supposed to upload to a bank. Oh, okay. It's on the third bank. 1 second. There it is.
You know what? I got something really special.
Are you serious? Hold on real quick. All right. It's right there on the third bank right there. Okay. These secrets, man. These secrets be wild. I've been dealing with this kind of thing for 10 years about how quirky the system will get. Give me 1 second.
Battling water or
I know I downloaded that track. That's number 16. I'm here in music.
Battling water.
Okay, I got the track again. And then now I'm here and I'm going to cross the track over one more time. Okay, I see what's happening here. Okay, let's throw this away. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this through the other system as we were doing earlier. This track is literally 50 megabytes, and I actually got rid of some stuff that was bigger than it, but it still says that it's having a hard time with the size. And I wanted to play it through this system so we can boost the audio up a little bit. But let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and take another question. And I'm going to cue it up another way. I have many ways to do this. So if it's looking for me to give up, it's got the wrong one. Wholeness.
My question was.
Okay, we got two folks. Talking at the same. What's up, Curtis? Wholeness, Mo. Curtis, I think Mo was about to jump in on that one.
I just want to ask, how long have you been doing yoga?
That's funny because I actually been doing yoga for years. Like I did some off and on, but really, I get on this thing where I just start doing something and I just do it. And I had like maybe 3 or 4 years back, maybe even a little bit about 3 or 4 years back, I had went to this yoga institute called Atma Yoga. I actually was introduced to the guy that was the yogi of the institute, the one who was doing all of the work. And we was going hard. Like we was going to 5:30 every morning. And we did that for months on end. And these were hard classes because everybody in this group was already, bending their head, bending their leg all behind their head. And, the women are actually a lot more flexible. So there was a few sisters in there that had been in for years. And I was always feeling like I was like basically not, how you're in a gym class and you're just like, I can't keep up. And I felt like in those classes every day, I was like, man, I can't even keep up. Because there was also a stamina thing because we were not only holding positions, we were doing headstands. And I was even sometimes getting injured. Like I think one time I tweaked my neck. And then also, just to be honest, I just didn't feel it. It was like this thing, like it wasn't doing it for me. I didn't feel like excited to go there every morning. Right. And so I continued it for a little, for that period. I got really flexible. Then I went to another gym and they always have the yoga class in the gym. So I would jump into there from time to time. And then I went to another gym. I jump in that yoga class from time to time, but nothing serious, right? Like nothing like, okay, I'm really going to be on my yoga thing. And the advent of our brother Andrew coming through was pretty divine because there was also, I didn't want to go back to working out again. Like I had started feeling a lot better after I made some terrain modification adjustments to my diet again. And I didn't want to go, I started working out, but I was like, man, working out is just not it. And I was like, I need something else. And then right around that time, Andrew comes in, he's like, yo, we're going to do this yoga. And I'm like, oh no. Cause I'm thinking, he's going to be going ham like other dude. And we're going to be in here and I'm not really going to want to do it, but I'm going to still be in there. And it was totally different. That's when I realized that, it's kind of like when they say, when you choose a master, you choose a mentor at something, that you should kind of like choose one. You should just kind of go around and look at different people or talk to different people and see who really clicks, because there's someone that is vibrating more along the line of where you're at, doing something that would be instrumental for you to do in a way that actually is like, okay, I'm in on this. It includes you in a certain way. Because I also do find, as in seeing many yoga institutes, there was a very close relationship that seemed to be developed between all of the people that were there that were really into it. It was like, and they had developed that over years. And then here you come, you know what I mean? You got no flexibility or whatever. And they're more like, they just shining on their own. And it just feels like, like a circus, like they're a part of the circus and I'm not, you know what I mean? And so that's my answer to that question. I've been on and off, but now I'm on. Like I definitely been hitting it. And also remember that yoga is also yoga of the mind. It's so important to remember that, because that's how you can get people that can do all the flexible moves, but it's just like they're missing it. It's like, they can even be like robots, or they could be in there just in the dogma of it. And it's just like, they're not really tapping into, or it doesn't seem like that there, because I have to say that because I'm not inside of them, but it doesn't seem like they're tapping into the real essence of what this power can really bring. And that's why I feel like that many of us that are not doing this is for us. You see what I mean? Because it unlocks powers and awareness and abilities in a way to keep your being calm, and a way for you to move energy. Like I was having like headaches for a little bit, like right before these sessions started. And I knew it was because I was seemed to be building up a lot of brain juice for whatever reason. Hey, we can only imagine, all this thinking, right? And I needed something that I felt like was going to get rid of these headaches. And I when I went into the first yoga session, I actually, Andrew always says, set your intentions of what you will hope to receive inside of this yoga that you're going to practice with yourself. So I was like, man, to get rid of these headaches. And I actually was in the yoga. I meant to even try to take an ibuprofen or something before I got in there. The headache was that bad, but I couldn't get to it. And I just went into the yoga and I was like, man, this is going to make my head hurt more. That's what I felt like. Cause I was like, man, I'm just going to be in there. I'm going to be breathing. It's going to be pulsing. and the headache went away. And because the headaches were serious for me, like, I mean, when I get a headache, it's like I get impaired. It's like I can't really think through the headache. And sometimes, go ahead.
About that too, because after doing what we did last night on Zoom with the training of lucid dreaming, after doing that, I don't know if anybody ever said this after doing the training for the first time, I felt very terrible when I woke up. My body felt so weak, but I pushed myself to do the yoga from yesterday that we did live, and I felt amazing.
Yeah. You know what? This phenomenon, because it's very similar to just being fatigued anyway. Like when you do something that you're normally not doing, even if that you're I don't know, maybe you're doing a mantra or maybe you're on a fast or doing the yoga. It's like that first gym class. And what it really is actually acid. Like some people try to make it into more than what it really is. That's why a real alchemist will say, bring me your acids and bring me your alkalines. Because what happens is that when the body, especially if it hasn't been worked out or it hasn't been, juiced up in a while, it has all these deposits of the acid inside of all of the joints and inside of the muscles. And then when you go and upset that acid, man, it's almost like sometimes we even cook up this perfect storm for ourselves, because we may even go and eat some tomato sauce, some vinegar, some hot sauce, or something that has that kind of thing going on top of this. And then your energy is depleted. And then what happens is when you go to bed, this is why, like one of the tricks to having good dreams all the time is to drink alkaline before you go to bed, because it's the vibration. It's the dream world is manifested based on the vibration in which the person is in when they go to sleep. And your vibration is not wholly like just in controlled of by your mind only, like that your mind is controlling your vibration. Actually, your body is the larger organism. So if it's got a lot of alkaline in it, which immediately takes the acid, it's like, if you have even a beaker and you have a beaker of acid and it's just all bubbly and all that kind of stuff and it's looking like seltzer, you pour some alkaline in, it just goes and it goes into nothing. That's exactly what happens from your stomach, your energetic field, all of that. It basically puts the battery back on neutral. But if the battery is still in the acidic phase, it needs to now go to sleep, and it's going to have a restless sleep. This is like if you ever done a day of workout, it was like your first day back at the gym. You figure you're going to get it all back in one day. You go home, all this hurts the next day, right? Especially if you're hurt before you leave. If you're hurt before you leave, you're really done. But generally it's 2 days. And then here it hurts. All of this hurts, all that's acid. And this is where the foam roller comes in. I guess we kind of got into a different conversation today, but hey, it's all relative. But the foam roller, this is another part that is just omitted from the whole process of working, of doing any kind of work on your body. It's not just doing the yoga, it's also the foam roller, because what the foam roller is going to do is it's going to move the acid. We literally have to look at our bodies like that piece of meat. Like if you've ever had one before, or if you're still reminiscing on one, or you had one recently, just a piece of meat when it's not tenderized, right? What do they do to tenderize it? They take that tenderizer and they roll it back and forth on that meat. And if you do that for a few times, that meat just becomes naturally soft. You could take cheap meat and make it taste like filet mignon if you roll it long enough. So the reality is that you have to do that with your muscles, your calves, your arms. And notice how then what happens is, let me tell you what derails people from doing this. One thing is, first of all, the foam roller doesn't seem to be connected to them losing weight or gaining muscle, so they think. And so what they do is they generally omit it, or when they get on it, they either don't know what to do with it or they do it really fast. It almost seems like a waste of time. Like, I got to go work out. I'm not trying to do this foam roller. But that foam roller is actually going to be probably one of the most instrumental, especially if there's cellulite, if there's a buildup of certain viscous veins, these kind of different things. The foam roller is what will ultimately assist in fixing that, especially the one with the little knobby tips on it. So, just a word to the wise about when you go in on something very heavy and there's a lot of energy exerted, you're building up acid. You can take cell food. Right? That to cell food is the only over-the-counter alkalizer period. That beside the alkalizer, which is, so you got two types of alkalines. So on Secret Energy, we have the alkalizer, which is carbonates, right? So you have potassium carbonate, you have different carbonates that they create alkaline, right? Or you have alkalines like Cell Food. Cell Food is available on Amazon. Cell Food, if you notice, and you can't put a lot, some people just like, they get this kind of stuff and they squeeze the whole, it's like a dropper bottle. That's how strong this stuff is. They take the dropper bottle and they squeeze it in the water, and they drink it in the water. Water tastes like lemons, right? And they think that, this is okay. You don't need to add anywhere near that amount of alkaline, because that will actually eat through your teeth after a while. So remember, the goal is always pH balance, right? So the goal is never high alkaline and definitely not low alkaline. It's pH balance. But in a high alkaline world where everybody thinks high alkaline is healing, it works kind of as a false positive, because most people are more on the negative or acidic spectrum anyway. Tomato sauce, breads, etc., all create acids. So technically, getting them more high alkaline things like high alkaline water is kind of the theory. But let's say a person that's already managing their diet, and they, especially if you're eating vegetables a lot and you're also drinking a lot of alkaline, you're going to rot away your teeth. You're going to rot away your bones. That's what alkaline does when it's at 9, 10, where they be drinking water at, right? So, of course, so you're the alchemist of yourself. So okay, so I just came out of the gym. I'm got acid. Let me add some alkaline. You'll take a couple of drops of Cell Food. You'll drink that, and then boom, it'll like a battery. It will discharge the static of the battery, right? And then you'll be able to recharge. So you'll actually be able to get good sleep. And then you'll be able to recharge, then you're good. Other than that, it's negs from there. Like it's just a simple process of vibrational frequency. If you don't do it, the acid is gonna pull you into to a negative frequency. And then when you dream, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. You'll be fighting and all sorts of stuff that just the negative zone has. And that's how you remedy that. And so I trust that could be your go-to when you're going through meditations. Even at times, meditations can be exhausting. When you start letting the air flow through you and you start feeling the bliss and all that, most of the time when people come out of that, they feel like they want to go to sleep. It's like they don't feel like they're juiced up and ready to go run downtown. And it's because you've started the generators and now they're going. That's what you're feeling in the bliss. But the consistency of the actual fluid that is powering the system is basically discharging. And the body is so beautiful, it only takes your acids and your alkalines to be able to actually recharge your body. Like it's a pretty incredible system, but you would have to understand what you're doing in the first place. And what I noticed is that somehow we were even more prone towards a destruction. Like we would literally do things that at the wrong time, like I said, work out. Then all of a sudden grandma's got this meatball tomato soup tonight, right on top of all of the acid, and it just kind of cooks up this perfect storm. So I feel like we have to be aware of how we're operating our bodies. Yeah. All right. So Sean, we're going to give it one more again. Here it is. And that was funny. So yeah, I'm just glad we had that prelude. Like that's honestly, everyone that's tuning in out there, that Tribe Vibes is the time that we have an opportunity to come together and to share with each other. To not only ask questions, knowledge, wisdom, etc., but also to really just be in the space and to really see us all here and see us all, with this essence and this force of wanting to gain a higher level of awareness with ourselves. So Sean, this one's going to be a little bit lower, but we're going to go with it. All right, so here we go. Let me see.
Being buried in a grave and escaping the grave, being caught up in a whirlwind and escaping. You see what I mean? So that's the external mind trying to comprehend the great mysteries. When really what the knowledge was that was encoded within these geometries and these systems, they was only a secret for people who were ignorant, was that, hey, if you could tap into the fire, the earth, the wind, the water inside of you, because we made you in a design that has that inside of it, you could then pull the strings of that force externally and make it externally manifest to you. So very simply put, if you can figure out how to fully get in tune with water inside of you, you can make rain outside of you. You can change how clouds look. You can make streams stop, depending upon how much you're in tune with the element in you. So this, of course, defeats all this fake magic that's out right now, because it's all about doing something externally. It's not even about how to figure it out, how to do it internally, and that's why most of it doesn't work. The only way that it works is for another person to believe it works. This is the blind leading the blind. They both fall into a pit. Voodoo does not work unless you have two people who believe in voodoo. Nothing exists unless you have two people that believe in it. The same rules apply. So what we have to determine is what we believe in and what we know, and the difference between those two, because those are going to give you the key fundamentals of how to actually manipulate the matrix. Now, what is the matrix? In this case, I always like to put another term in front of that, artificial artificial matrix. Okay, that's the square. Artificial in this tense means that it was an artifice. What is an artifice? It's something that you build, a structure. It's like something that you're casting, a mold. So these beings, let's say, which are your ancestors that built on the square, meaning they built on things like language, vibrations, tones, frequencies, chemicals, lights. They are using the components within the dream to manifest and change things in the dream. So let's keep forward. Now, as I told you, Gaia is in a dream. So there's another shape that goes outside of this circle, and it may be a little more difficult for you to draw, but just imagine a football, the American football, and also imagine how an eye looks. And this design is called a Vesica, okay? This design actually goes outside of the circle, okay? So you have the Vesica, you have the circle, you have the square, and then you have the cross. Okay, now this Vesica, as you know, this specific shape is very amphibian and reptilian. We look at the eyes to determine the planet. That's why they say the planet is the gateway to the soul. So you look at the eyes, and when we get one of these concave eyes, as we call it, we know that this represents really the first strand of DNA, the first spiral. And when we look at reptilians, we find that reptilians actually have one strand of DNA, while humans have two strands of DNA. So that one strand DNA, this is what is meant also when you look at this shape that you have now drawn, when they say that you're the apple of my eye. What this means is that if you find yourself in the center of that square, in the center of that cross, you would be the apple of the eye of quote unquote God, a far more superior collective force that all of this exists inside of as we're making our journey to what looks like outside, but is actually inside. So we would have to know that in math, which is our English word ma'at, or ma'at is our Tibetan word for math. I think I said that opposite, but they're the same language when you understand what you're looking at as a symbol. Ma'at, or math, is the revelation that all of this that we're talking about right now has all been quantified. There are actually numbers inside of frequencies. There are amounts of times that water drops. There are the exact size of the moon to the size of Earth. There are actually ratios. This is called God's language. This is why when you walk into any kind of sanctum or secret society, a real one, there's a language that you don't understand. They're talking in a language and writing in a language that you don't understand. High levels of math is very similar to that. If you walk in one of those mathematical rooms and they got the board out, they're writing a bunch of stuff that would be like a secret society language to you because you wouldn't understand it. So too the secrets of the knowledge of the stars, the language, the lights, the gases, the things that can't be seen. This should put you into the proper correction as you're looking at your design. What is seeing? Do you think that you're seeing when you're way inside of the man-made construct called the body? Let me prove that you're not. So we call this seeing because we're looking around us and we're actually perceiving these things that are around us. But actually, the fact is, most of the things that are still in their perfected shapes, like atoms, which are really there, quarks, air, hydrogen, you can't even see. So if we're calling this seeing, but we can't see the things that are most important, wouldn't that technically be blind? So we find in the Royal Science, written 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, it says, in fact, yes, that what the brain is actually doing is it's using something more akin to a tentacle called manas, a tentacle to kind of feel over the reality that you think you're experiencing and then bring back to you what it's seeing. So this whole experience that we have at times when we're using the blind mind to perceive what's going on around us is just simply feeling all over stuff. I feel good. Okay, they feeling good to me. It's hot outside today. I think the sun is out. The birds are chirping. All right, it feels like this person loves me. I feel like that I'm hungry. I need to eat. And all of this stimulus coming into the consciousness always happening so much. When do you think it'll be ever time for the person to really see? And what is it that you think that they're really seeing? Now, we've already revealed that if you actually look at microscopically into the actual eye, the real physical eye, you'll see that there's actually an entire web of hexagonal shapes sitting on the bottom part of the person's eye that they're looking through. This is facts. This is biology. And it turns out that in real mystical knowledge, they tell you that when you're looking through that, you're looking into the dualistic world. You're looking into the divided world. You're looking into something that is an illusion in a sense that it is made out of light, but also an illusion in a sense that it's not the real one. It's actually a replica. And unfortunately, because the way light diffuses in the size of your eye, even physically, you wouldn't be able to see the whole thing. This is why you would need to turn around all the time to see more of the reality. It's a metaphor. It's saying that while you're here, you'll never see the whole picture. You must come out of the square and at least get to the circle, which is basically the real dream that uses organic forms that all the wizards, the warlocks, the mages, and all of them are all the dead people. All of them are all in that part of the dream. Hopefully till you make it to the Vesica, the all is self, the awareness of the geometry, the fractal-based nature of the whole thing, the mathematical code, the sequences and all that. And then there's two more shapes. You can call it one more shape that you draw around this, which is two large circles. Two large circles. And what these circles are, when you see them, let's say in a 3D format, is they're the torus. So those two large circles that are around this Vesica Pisces that we've now drawn, these are in themselves the torus field. So this whole thing is Tauruses with Vesica Pisces spiraling inside with an orb of a dream spinning, creating a thick field or a thick layer of the difference between the real world versus the man-made world, which is the square that is inside. And then the man-made world, which is also known as the crown of the Magi, being put together because that, if you look at it now, it looks like a pyramid. So this evokes 5. 4 evokes 5 when you put an L around it. It's the throne of Osiris. So it's 4 going to 5. So this design in the center is talking about the knowledge and the wisdom of how to create a world. And I'm just here to also explain to everyone that that's already been figured out. So if you're in something like that, which I'm calling the simulated dream, because now beings figured this out and started using much more proficient ways to get large amounts of people into their collective dream, like the TV, like the educational system, like languages. See, the art itself, it stretches across anything. It just must be perfect. Whatever art you go into, you have to have the perfect code of the template implemented within that art, and then it'll work. And what our planet used to be is a place where we explored that infinitely. We were never trapped into one dream. We could always choose to go into another projection that was created by our consciousness. And that has not changed. What has changed is there are hackers in the system that will actually use your projector, your energy, your force, your actual life force to project their dream. So all our teachings are about is how to get that energy back for yourself. How to stop being this external being, using these tentacles like an octopus to try to feel your way around a reality that is not even the real one. How to come into yourself in this time, because only thing that you're going to get, as we talked about earlier, is this point-to-point system that every time you walk into a room, every time you go into a chat box, every time you watch a video, and you know that integrally this is not even on point, you're going to scroll down to the comments and there's going to be a bunch of confirmations that it supposedly is. And this is direct evidence. Once you start seeing stuff like this, and that's why I said this is a conversation with real people right now. We're not saying there's any fake people in the room. Real people. Once you start seeing this, it's the direct note to you in the illusions that you can plunge yourself into. It's time to wake up. You have somehow lost control of the complete spectrum of how the dream operates. And now you must pull out of the dream, readjust things, and then whatever you decide to do from there, that's what you do. But to stay in the dream, you will be allowing someone or something else to be able to utilize your life force. So let's see how it works. In a point-to-point system, as we've learned after we've just distilled all these ancient teachings, we find out that it's as simple as when you get upset or when you get angry, you lose life force. When you fall into any confliction, when you're sad about something because someone doesn't want to do any of those kind of energies, jealousy, any of those kind of energies, when you use them, when you turn them on, you lose life force. And that actually what the dream is the dream is a network that is tied into your feeling-based structure in order to tug those strings to allow you to play characters in the dream. So in this case, we would then say that in Gaia's dream overall, the animals and the people, which are a different type of hack, mainly the animals, are moving on their instinct and their emotions in order to determine to them what the reality is. And because we were designed with some of the parts from that dream, we also have that way of going back into our animalistic side of ourselves and just acting crazy and wild and not really tuning into what this intelligence is revealing to us. And I always say that's really that's how it's all going to boil down in a minute. You're just going to see two types of people in the world. You're going to see the wild ones, which have completely surrendered to their own natural passions. I'm not saying either one of these are good or bad. Once you start going into that again, you're back inside of the matrix. You're back inside of the false womb. It's just highlighting those two worlds, the wild world. And then you have those that have gained this intelligence or intellect or this light. And what it has done is it has revealed a truth. Now, just because the truth is revealed to you has nothing to do with if you can accept the truth. This is a hard one. It happens over and over again. We search for years for the truth. Then we finally get it. And especially the way we positioned ourselves in life, it seems to be that either we would have to lose our lives or accept the truth. They seem to be paradoxes to each other. Welcome to the paradox. Now, the solution to the paradox is you also have two bodies. So you're actually capable of allowing your body to go into supreme mastery in each stage. And this is why the masters taught that, because of the animalistic fire, earth, wind, and water still being able to be trained, which would make a real magus, then so too, you can actually bring these forces of emotions or the oceans together within yourself and actually gain control of that. And then when you know how to master that, instead of being angry and upset, you could enlist the feeling of happiness, joy, or just a smile, because those give life force. So it's basically like a hack to unhack the hack. The hack was that you would even feel anger, pain, disdainment, all of that stuff, things that you don't prefer in your own dream. The unhack to that is that you now, when seeing this, because now you're starting to realize how this all works and this knowledge that you're receiving, but it needs to be confirmed consistently. And the only way to confirm it is every time you see someone doing something like what I'm explaining now, like, if they're in the division world, you can count on them not seeing the whole picture. So that's going to throw them off balance. Then you're just going to deal with the polarity all the time of the person until they can be corrected. And that's it. So if you're still getting into something crazy with them, you're just being pulled into that whole vortex. And then now you're being a part of the character inside of their dream and whatever's making them dream. It's that simple. So you just got to choose which one is your preference. So of course, what you'll find is that that is not that easy. Somehow through this training of where we've been growing up at and how things have been presented to us about solving problems, etc., we feel like the only way to actually solve something is through conflict and to do it externally. Someone the other day told me, yeah, I'm kind of upset there's new people coming in the country because when it gets really hot, they still are taking these long showers and it's using up all the water, and then all the water is gone because they don't understand that you can't run a lot of water. And I said, whoa. This is a classic example. You will be trying to change a bunch of people that you don't know from coming into a country that you do not control from using and taking a shower too long. You're going to be miserable forever trying to regulate that unless you figure out how to tap into water outside of you and just inside of you and make it rain outside of you. That would be the only solution. Do a rain dance. So it's basically that people will feel like they're melting down because they won't be able to come up with external solutions anymore for how to fix this reality. Because there was never any. It's only the internal solution that you have to train your animal bodies, if you may, that are giving you the feelings that you're having right now, the lower chakras that you're alive and that you exist, the lower chakra energy, and you have to take them and actually train them. And this is metaphorically to training your dragon or training your totem animal. You're on this wild animal. This is what I was saying about the two bodies you have. You're on this wild animal in the two worlds that you live in. The animal wants to be wild. So you have this wild animal, and then you also have this very precisely intelligent trainer. And these are the two beings that you oscillate in between to actually allow you to move across the space because you're neither one of them. At minimum, you're everything, but being identified to the wild one that you're riding around in, or to be identified with the super intelligent being that you have now conceived in this projection to be able to gain control of it, to lean on either one of those as if they're absolute is to block out your own light, meaning that the only thing that will technically keep you going through infinity is to actually realize within how you can't be destroyed. It's like the ultimate paradox. It's not something that can be figured out. It escapes knowledge and wisdom. It weasels its way out of everything. Where did we all come from? Where did it all start? No one can answer that. If they start trying to smack them, be like, look, man, you're defiling the holies of holies. That's all we really got out there is infiniteness. And so if you try to bring infinite into the finite, you're going to ruin it for yourself. There is something out there. You can be encouraged by it all the time that it exists. The sheer proof that we are in existence means that we'll never stop existing. It's self-confirming. And when you tap into that, because right now, if it's somebody's got to show you immense amount of love, you got to eat this chicken sandwich that you want, you need to get this new car, you need to get a better job. If it's any of those things, it can't sustain who you are. And those things, of course, they're direct plug. It's like a gas station. They're a direct plug into the lower root chakra. It fills up with the most energy. But this is why they're saying that. So what you become is basically like, and if you have this issue, like a Dodge Viper versus a Prius. You need so much for you to confirm who you are. You need so much life force to confirm at every single moment who you are. This is why when people die, they get faint. They become thinner light. They start to diffuse because their spirit, the true thing that they're made out of, hasn't been fed. It only eats light. Could you imagine you invite this king over or queen, these royal beings that are in this high level of consciousness? I'm talking about you. And then you throw some shit on the table and you're like, here's our food. Here's some food for you. Can they eat that? Well, that's an obvious answer. So this is what it's like to imagine that your higher chakras, if you may, and we're just giving terms here, your higher systems or faculties will be able to power up on a bag of Doritos or something that doesn't even have the energetic potential to be able to power that kind of vehicle. So this is where common sense also comes in, like using all of these arts that we learn, electronics and all these different things that we've learned. You can't power a light body on oil that is not even combustion, that doesn't even combust. So this is now coming out as, hey, you can't have that kind of diet and get to this level of awareness. However, because you know you can make these optimizations to your vehicle, because remember, your vehicle is your wow car. That's your wow thing you got going on. You can choose the fuels. You can change out where the motor. You can change the way the energy is coming in. You can make any edits that you truly want because of the gift that has been given to you. So in conclusion, since this was to me just an opener of just looking at the design, you need to be aware yourself of these things inside of your own being now. 2 years ago, 1 month ago, totally different time and space. We would be surprised how fast we're moving right now. But where are we going? You're going in through vibrations. Some people, they don't know where they're going. Like, where are we going? Well, if you're oscillating and you get up to a certain frequency, it's not really a distance, but you'll harmonize with higher octaves, which are an intelligent field. And in this field, it's literally like it's watching over this field. It masters over this field. It's a code. And thus you would be perceptive of that code, and you would see little stuff in your life. Like you would walk out and notice this car driving by and the number that immediately flashes on that car and the label that's on that car, and it would tell you everything about the rest of the day. You would have a query of wisdom that you would want to receive, and someone would just start saying it and still be off context to what they're talking about, or on context to what they're talking about, but also on context to the question that you just asked in your mind. This is what it really is. When they show those strings of this puppet master, because they show you all of this stuff and they want you to be afraid of it so they can just keep canceling out the maxims. That hand, as I told you, the built by man's hands, that hand is you. The strings, or the 5 strings, which is the pentagram strings, are you being able to control your physical body and the animal or the crown of the magi in order to be able to do the things that you want to do inside of the simulation. So that's why the title of this conversation today was Thriving Inside of the Simulated Dream. Not healing inside of the simulated dream, feeling sorry inside of the simulated dream, blaming somebody inside of the simulated dream. That's not the build today. So I trust that, and it was recorded, and I'll make sure it comes back around. This guide, this symbol in itself of a template to how to get out of reality, as you're calling it, and get into actuality, is actually really not inside out, but outside in. And so that's the opus that I wanted to begin this with today. It seemed to take a little bit more time than I actually thought that I would put into it. But it, to me, is necessary that maybe even in the future, as we keep going, you know how they call it a speed run. This is when they're playing games and they try to beat the game as fast as possible. A speed run of this template for you.
Yeah. I just have to say, man, like, it's always a gift to be able to be here with the ancestors and be on point with the knowledge and really have made it through. Like, I trust that everyone here was able to gain that same level of awareness about themselves. I got a chance to share some of the imagery related to these builds while we were going. And yeah, wow, there was one more image left. I just want to put this on before we adjourn for today. Also, if this is your first time catching anything, it's your first time inside of Ambassador Training, welcome, wholeness. You have a treat inside of the university for you. I checked the other day, there's 150 videos in there, and each of those are long format. So there's some powerful courses. What we're going to be doing in the future, everyone, is that we're going to be bringing out some of this material and we're going to put it in its own respective curriculum. And then we're going to bring it to the world and do a huge on-demand service kind of like a spiritual Netflix, because this is not all that. This is just one session. We have karma codes. We have so much, and it's all available for you. And yeah, so just know that what we do here, we bring it from the heart. And that's really all of what's necessary, because it brings it from the center of self. I also want to point out very briefly, that was a part of this build while we're here and while we're closing into the space, is that what I was talking about on the eye is that there's a back part of the eye, and that back part of the eye actually points right into the pineal gland or into the projector. So technically, we're supposed to be looking through the back of our eye rather than the front. And then when we look through the front, we see basically what they call the created world, or as you see, the tree of Yggdrasil is exactly the same diagram of the eye. And these are just things that along the way, if you have truth, it will, if you have truth, you're going to see it in everything. It's going to be, we're not the first ones to figure out the truth. Like even when they show you that rainbow, that's the refraction from the prism inside of the eye. And then there's a clock that they still have around in some of the old Oriental villages that are also models of the world. So, and as you see down there, they got the dragon in the bottom of the eye. And of course, that's the hexagonal shape that you see on the scales of the dragon. So all of this is not just, just these how can I put it, like these fairy tales, or, these dogmatic evil creatures that, that's the only meaning of it all. What it really is it's a deeper mystery of what's going on inside of ourselves. And the moment that you get into yourself is the moment that these things start to become, see, I got a little creature going on around here. This is the moment that these things start to become so much more important to you, because they actually belong to you. So I wanted to say, Wholeness and Balance Vibrations Tribe, it's 9:30, so I'm going to let everyone get out of here early. Next week, we're going to do a digestion. I see we got some, hey, I'm in the jungle, so I'm surprised. I got a big bank of lights, so all the bugs are like, the sun, and they're kind of hanging out outside right now on the window, so let them get on with their thing by turning the lights off today in the jungle. But I also wanted to give thanks again to all the pillars in here, also the moderators regulating things inside the chat, to all those that got a chance to join us tonight on YouTube. You're extremely appreciated. Also over there on Facebook, check us out at Secret Energy. Of course, Eneology phase 1 and phase 2 is running for free. And we also have some beautiful hydrogen products. Remember, hydrogen teaches your body. It teaches the elements in your body how to form themselves. You have a periodic table in your body, but many of those elements are deficient. They don't actually know how to rearrange themselves because they have not been exposed to the number one molecule on the periodic table, which is hydrogen. So that's what I got today. We give thanks. We could go ahead and go into that crescendo of wholeness this evening. And I trust that you'll have a great time with your family. And from my family and tribe to yours, I'll see you soon. Wholeness.
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 Wholeness and Balance Vibration Tribe.
Wholeness.
We love we family.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. 7 on the 1s and 2s.
Hey.
So much love.
Much love. Worldwide tribe. Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Oh yeah. All right then. Wholeness and Balance Vibration. Let's take us from nobody here into space. Wholeness inside of self, balance. Let's get it.